Hello, welcome to another Harrogate podcast with me, Andrew Gray. In the Harrogate podcast, it's my job to deconstruct and interview the movers and shakers in this wonderful Harrogate bubble in which we live and work. Today, I'm delighted to have Peter Dickinson of Harrogate Business Advisors with me. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, Andrew. Thank you for inviting me in.
My pleasure. Are you ready for the grueling and grilling you're going to get from me now?
Probably not, but let's fire away.
Sure. So, you hold yourself out as a very experienced business guru. Is that somewhat arrogant to suggest that you know more about business than many of the people listening to this podcast? You know, what's your background? Have you done it? Prove it to us.
Okay. Are they all going to be hard like this? It's a tough start, Andrew. Thank you. My background is I've been out in corporate world for 30 years with one employer. And with that employer, I went all around the world. I started in a technical role and then moved into sales. And when I had a personal target of 20 million annual, I then thought it must be easier. And I've always had an affinity with the SME world. So I stepped out of the corporate world almost 14 years ago and started using all the skill sets I'd got from an international business that I worked in and applied that then into SMEs. But it's interesting that you started that conversation with the word guru, because I think that word is completely overused in the industry that I work in. However, about 6 years ago, I met an Indian guy called Mangesh, and Mangesh did some work on my website, and then I subsequently reprofiled his mindset so that Mangesh is actually a successful businessman now in India. And when he was getting married about 3 years ago, he invited me and my wife out, so we went out to an Indian wedding. And in India, the word guru, which is where it's originated, it simply means God, and they have a deity. They have hundreds and hundreds of gurus. But for Mangesh, he now begins every piece of correspondence with Dear Guru. So, strangely, I am actually a guru out there.
Ladies and gentlemen, the first bona fide guru sitting in the seat here.
I've got the t-shirt.
You do, indeed. Well, I can detect from your accent, and of course we've met before, somewhat of a northeastern twang.
Yeah.
Tell us about your background before the corporate world. Were you an Oxbridge type? You strike me as one of the smartest people I've met, so I'm assuming Oxbridge. Am I right? Am I wrong?
Not at all. When I was 16, I left school and went straight out onto a building site. It was a choice to leave academia behind because I don't believe they were doing anything for me. In fact, it was when I left school and started reading and playing sports and playing instruments and reading history and traveling, I then started to realised there was a lot more to the world than I was getting at school, and I just focused on working my way into different environments. No, I didn't intend ever to stay into academia. What I wanted to be was a test pilot.
Wow. And did you ever get to be a test pilot?
No, I didn't stay on at school long enough to get the right qualifications, but it's always been a dream to fly.
Okay, and have you flown a plane ever?
Never.
So why, if your dream was to be a test pilot, and bearing in mind that you help business owners to complete their dream, why is it that you've not finalised your dream, enjoyed your dream of test piloting or taken a plane from an airport in York?
Okay. I find with all of these things that life gets in the way of your plans, and it just didn't work out. So now I have a different horizon, and instead of looking out for going off into blue skies, it's now into the business world and helping business owners raise their aspirations and bring them into blue sky.
I like that. That is a good answer, Peter. Now, many people in your field of work, they run franchises, and that's fine. I suppose the benefit is that they get access to the organisational knowledge and perhaps to get some teamwork and help from sort of those that also have franchises. I noticed that Harrogate Business Advisors, your entity, isn't a franchise. Why did you make the decision not to go down that route?
I think you're right. There's a lot of people doing what I do through a franchise, and there are a lot of good people doing that who've come from a business background and then joined the franchise, so they've already got an external experience. I think where that model lets itself down is when the people simply give up their day job, pay their franchise fee, get a book, and believe that they're qualified in something. So I've just simply done the hard yards, been out there, not only 30 years in that corporate world, but all this time now, nearly 14 years, just helping business owners. I feel I've got the track record. So
Peter, 14 years is phenomenal in any line of work to run your own business for that length of time. It's probably double the length of an average marriage, I would say. It is.
It's two broken mirrors.
Two broken mirrors, indeed, indeed. 14 years, there must have been many a high and many a low. Could we deal with a high?
I feel my biggest achievement is when I went out to Florida to meet Bob Berg, who's the co-author with John David Mann of The Go-Giver, which is a book and a series of books. But it's a whole ethos. It's not just about a book, Go-Giver.
Could you explain this ethos to me?
First of all, my achievement there is that I'm the only person in the UK that is a Go-Giver sales coach and Go-Giver international speaker. And to achieve that, I spent weekends away with Bob in Florida. He's such a nice guy. The whole principle of the Go-Giver is that it's a fictional story about a sales guy called Joe. He's coming to the end of his quarter. He needs a sale. And he's phoning around and he's saying, "Jim, you owe me this deal. Please sign." And we, who have a sales background and read that, we all cringe inwardly, because that is obviously not a very good conversation to have with your prospect. So he's got 5 days left, and in the story, Joe meets 5 different mentors that teach him different laws, different values of the Go-Giver. And the first law of the Go-Giver is that we must deliver more in value than we take in payment. Now, when I read that, I didn't think, from today I'm going to be a Go-Giver. I thought, these guys have actually nailed the way that I've been working. Because I came through from a technical role in the corporate world, then moved into sales later, I've always had an ethos, a culture of fix it, make it right for the client. That's been my background. And then when I came into sales, it was make sure it's right for the client. And then when I struck out on my own, it's make sure it's right for the client. Because, and I know you're a fan of Zig Ziglar.
Huge fan.
He advocates rightly that if we have great aspirations in our life, what we need to do is make sure that everybody else's aspirations are met. So if you're working with a client and you're achieving their targets, then by definition, you will be achieving yours. And that's always been my philosophy. Client focus, client first.
Thank you. You remind me a little of Zig Ziglar, I have to say. When we were talking pre-recording, I said to you, there's a Zig Ziglarness about you. I'm not sure all of our listeners will be aware who Zig Ziglar is. Could you perhaps explain a little more about him?
I think everybody who's listening should, after this podcast, get on to Google and check out Zig Ziglar. He's sadly passed away now, but he's left behind him a whole legacy, and his enterprise is still running through his family. His son has taken up the reins, and he's a fantastic business coach. He has a very forthright, almost religious zeal about him, but it's in a good way. It's a very, very positive message that Zig gives, and it's all about looking after the other person. And this is the whole ethos of the Go-Giver as well. And Bob is a very good friend. In fact, Bob does a fantastic imitation of Zig Ziglar as well. So yeah, Bob Berg was a great friend of Zig's.
You heard it here. Go and check out Zig Ziglar. I echo those thoughts, those sentiments. His podcast is excellent, and his children maintain his foundation. Any lows in the 14 years that you have been running your own enterprise? There've been highs, sure. Be frank with us. There must have been some lows too. What were they?
There've been some lows. 2009, we're talking about a recession, and small business owners felt it, I think, far more than they should have. There was a very cold wind blew, and it was very tough for everybody. everybody was focused on value, which, given that I'm leading with value, that's a great place for me to be. And I then turned it into a positive by finding any local grants for clients. That's when I learned my how to go out and find what's best for the client. So there are a whole plethora of things that clients can tap into, like there's funding to help them get apprenticeships, there's funding to help them get a grant, there's funding to help them change their energy usage and save money on bills, there's funding to use my services. And so I do all the nauseous paperwork for the client because it's to the benefit of the client instead of just walking straight in with my commercial day rate.
I must confess, when I first met you, you blew me away with this information about grants. As a lawyer and as a business owner myself, you would think that I would know something about grants, perhaps, and I knew nothing. And you opened my eyes to the worlds of grants, and I'm really grateful for that to you. But surely some of these grants are just impossible for the SMEs in Harrogate to obtain. Yes, sure, you do the paperwork, but really, is it like applying for the National Lottery for charity money? You've got like a 1 in 100 chance. What are the chances?
Okay, there's a service I'm working on right now as an administrator and a coach. It's called the Strategic Business Growth Program. It's absolutely fabulous. They're looking for high growth businesses, so you have to be able to be confident that your business over the next 3 years will double in size and that you will employ 10 or more new staff. That's what it's focused on. It's Leeds City Council have found European money, use it or lose it. It's not coming back.
There forever.
And you need to tap into here. Alistair Forbes in Harrogate Borough Council is a very good referrer into the service. If you think that you need that level of help, that's for very high growth, accelerated growth businesses. That's out there, and that is absolutely free to the business owner, and it's a fabulous service. But there are other things. If you're a manufacturer, you can tap into the Manufacturing Growth Fund. There's a whole range of things that if we just have a coffee, I'll just explain to you what's available to you and what might not be available.
Thank you, Peter. Now, many an independent restaurant and chain restaurant have closed in Harrogate recently, and the council seems to be quite rightly focusing on independence, the indies. And there's a website and I think a blog about indies. What general advice would you give to the indies of Harrogate?
I think I'm all in favour of it. I certainly don't like the large chains. I went to the Jamie Oliver restaurant and I'm not surprised it didn't last long.
Snap.
Yeah. The indies need to be looking for how they're adding value to their customers. What is it their uniqueness? They need to be thinking about how, I'm afraid I'm going to have to repeat myself, how they're adding value. If indies can demonstrate that have got an exclusive or a unique offering, people will make their way there. So I think it's a great thing for the town.
Got it. Tell me about your clients, without breaching any confidentiality with them. Who's your typical client? How long do you work with them for? And typically what successes and problems, failures
great question.
do you have?
Yeah. So I will revert to one client that I've now known for 5 years, and they loved me so much, the work I do, that they now have me on a retainer. So I'm on their email account, their Christmas party list. I'll be going to the birthday party of the managing director's wife next month. It's that, I'm that close with them. When I met the guy, he had a £400,000 turnover with 4 staff. After 4 years, he had a 4 million turnover with 44 staff, and he's now got me on a retainer because we need to get to 10 million is his next stretch target. But he now realizes he needs this cultural awareness amongst his team. So he wants me there to be the poet in residence, or the call it what you will, and I'm talking to the staff when I'm in there and engaging with them, understanding what issues they're seeing, that the managing director's not seeing anymore. It's an absolutely fabulous business, and it's an environmental business as well, so it's putting back. So every project that they work on is things like cleaning a weir up in Scotland so the salmon can get back to their spawning ground. And when I'm looking at the projects that they're working on, I get a huge rush and I think, oh, wow, this is really, really good. The client's doing fantastically well, and he's putting the planet back to right again, one project at a time. Fabulous client.
And you've helped, I'm sure, on that journey from 400,000 to 4 million. And good luck on the route to 10 million as well. I'm sure the local economy here would be rather delighted if there was a £10 million turnover business or more of them. Peter, you're an avid reader and you have gurus, go back to that word, that you turn to. Which are the books that you think the Harrogate business owners of Harrogate should turn to, or just have bite-sized chunks of, or you explain to them?
Okay, that's a very good question as well, because I read as much as I can, and I do it for a reason, not just it's my own personal development, and I'm enhancing my own skills, and I'm just a lifelong learner. That's not the reason. I do it because I'm waiting to engage with a client at some stage in the future, and that client is going to say something that's going to resonate with me, and I'll say, you need to read that book. And so I want to be the repository for a whole range of skills that I can add to the client's skill sets by instead of me doing hands-on and charging them my day rate to teach them it, I just simply take them back to the reference book in the first place. So there are a whole range of books. I've already mentioned The Go-Giver, and I would absolutely recommend all business owners read The Go-Giver for its message of client first. And if you just read it, you become a better business owner, a better husband or wife, a better brother or sister, a better team player, because that's what it's about. The Go-Giver teaches you to stand in the other person's shoes and see it from their perspective, and it's very powerful. There are a whole range of other books. The 4 Agreements was a very helpful book for me to help me understand communication. The 4 Agreements talks about the first agreement, be impeccable with your word. So be true to your word and be careful about what you say, and realize that words have a tremendous amount of power. The next is don't take anything personally. The next is don't make any assumptions. And the 4th agreement that you need to make with yourself is always do your best, such that if you've already been impeccable with your word and you didn't take it personally and you didn't make an assumption, you've done your best. That's a fabulous book for helping with communication, because it showed me that every single individual on this planet has an individual path from when they were born to where they are now, and they see the world completely through their own subconscious mind. And everybody's mind is different, and their journey's been different. And reading the 4 Agreements helped me now in communicating with friends, family, but most importantly, businesses.
So by engaging Peter Dickinson, you may not need to read all these books. It seems that you're going to summarise these books for people, and it would save people a lot.
That is what I do.
Of time. Great. You mentioned your day rate. Now, not everybody on this podcast wants to talk their fees and charges, and I completely get that. I'm a lawyer after all, and lawyers' charging rates can be somewhat cryptic. I wish it wasn't so, but it is. Your day rate, I imagine, for someone of your experience, is going to be so cripplingly expensive that most business owners listening to this podcast will just think, no, I can't manage it this month. What is it? Are you affordable?
Affordable. So we're talking about value. Let me start by not dodging the question.
Okay.
My day rate is £800 plus VAT. If you find that a shocking amount, then you need to think about the value that's delivered for that payment. I would never go into an agreement with a client if I didn't feel that I could add far more in value than they would be paying me. And we've already talked about the grant funding, so I always try and get my service cost reduced through using grant services. And when a client really is in startup mode and they are thinking, I want those services that Peter's talking about to help promote and accelerate my business, but I can't afford £800 a day, we come into an agreement where I can make the invoices 90 days from now. I'm not actually worried about cash flow. Some clients only take my time for an hour at a time, so they have a call off, like a cloakroom ticket, every time they use me for an hour. So I have some very small businesses in San Francisco, I have one in London. These are people that are only using me on an hourly basis, but they get tremendous, unbelievable value, such that after that hour, they're fired up and they're ready to hit the road again. So I am incredibly proud of my fee. I think it reflects the level of support that my clients get.
I'm fired up just watching you.
Sign here.
Listeners, he's animated in his chair here. I've told him to sit still because it's a squeaky chair, and he's got fire in his belly, I can assure you of that. Different question, changing tack somewhat. Reviews, online reviews, Trustpilot reviews, TripAdvisor and so on. How do the Harrogate business community react, or how should they react to negative reviews?
How should they react to negative reviews online? That is a hard question. They need, for me, when you have a negative customer review, it's an opportunity, it's a positive, because that client hasn't gone anywhere else for that service. They've simply identified with you that they have something that they'd wish you to correct, and you have the opportunity to pull that round and have a very positive experience with that client. That's the first thing about a complaint. It's a good thing. Deal with it, put it right, and it will help promote your business even further. I take your point about once it's out there on the ether, that is a different story. And it's very hard to actually overcome that. You've got to overcome it with more of the positive messages. I walk with a guy, Mark Reed, who has a business in helping other businesses promote themselves through networking. Mark Reed has written about 16 books. You may know him as an author. He writes The In Way, it's INN, which means you park at a pub, you have a round walk, and you get back into your car again. And Mark, on one of his books, has a review out there because a person was following one of his walks and he found it quite difficult. The walk was difficult and it was slippy underfoot because it was raining. So he gave him a very, very poor score because it was slippy underfoot because of the rain. Now, how do you... That's just impossible. And it's, for me, it's a little bit like Pandora's box. Once you go into that sphere, you do need to be aware that these things can happen. And although you're going into TripAdvisor to get positive reviews, it could happen that the world caves in and it doesn't go the way you think. So be very careful how you use that. But testimonials are fabulous.
And should these be just written or video, or how should the Harrogate business owners best produce a testimonial?
Okay, I have 3 testimonials on my website, so I'm bound to say this is the best way to do it because they're video testimonials, and I simply am standing with the client and I ask, we're going to talk about 3 things: you and your business first, how your business was before we met, and what benefit you've seen. So basically, tell me the pain that you were in and tell me how I applied the aspirin. Then those questions are edited out, and on the video the client just says, hi, I'm Jim, I'm a window cleaner, I was in dire straits, and then Peter's helped me out and I'm now soaring high. It's a lovely flow through.
Interesting that you chose video as well. Is that something that you think is really going to take off? Because although there's a YouTube and so on, I don't think video is very well done by the SMEs of Harrogate. Frankly, I find it's expensive, it's nerve-wracking, your staff don't always want to engage in it, and customers get a bit scared as well when they see a camera around. Are video testimonials the way, and video more generally?
Well, I believe they are, and I believe that everybody is a virtual director and editor and producer because they've all got mobile devices. So mine was done by a professional photographer, a cameraman in the room. It was a reasonable rate for 2 days of his work. It was very reasonable. I'll put you in touch if anybody's interested. But we could all do it anyway, just impromptu, on a train or in a cafe or on the street. You could just get your client to say those things about you and then put them straight into your social media stream.
I like it. We were working on something similar in my law firm actually, but we haven't quite got there yet. But thank you for the suggestion. I hope many of you take it up. Do you have any particular businesses you really specialise in? Sure, the SME sector, we know what that is. And yet we hear you have clients in the States and London and so forth. But there must be a specialism that you have.
Yeah.
What is it?
Okay, so I've already explained I came through a technical route and then into sales. For me, if I'm dealing with a high growth business, I'm invariably going to ask them, if we're going to have this raise in profit, where's it going to come from? Are you invented something new, or is it a whole range of new customers that we need to find? And invariably, we need to find new customers for this thing. Great, okay, so I can help find new customers, because for me, we need to look at the value, where we're adding value. So go back to the go-giver ethos and think, stand in your prospect and your client's shoes and think, where are we adding value? And then tailor that into a message that says, this is what we can do for businesses. That becomes your value proposition, your marketing message. Now, for me, marketing is shaping the ammunition, and sales is firing it at laser-focused targets, which reduces your marketing spend and gets the results amplified. They come much quicker if you target it. So I generally lead with a marketing and then sales, but I specialize in sales. I just say, let's find more customers.
How about working on the customers that you already have? Do you do that as well? Because isn't it easier to sell to customers that are already engaged with a particular company than actually find new customers?
Yes, that is also a very good question. I had a client who said to me, we need to get from 5 million turnover to 10 million turnover. And I said, one of the things I need to understand in your business is what the client base is. And so we did an exercise, I call it the matrix, where we're using a spreadsheet, and I would advocate that every single listener to this podcast that does this, please, today, make a list of all the people that you've invoiced over the last 24 months, and then make a list in order across the spreadsheet of the different services or products that you've sold them. That then will tell me, as your business coach, who are the high spenders, but also, more interestingly, what most of your products or services people are actually buying. Then I want you to look back at that matrix, and where that product or service is not relevant to that specific client, just shade that box out on the spreadsheet. But if it is relevant, put a number in there that you think, if they were buying those widgets or that service from me, that would be worth £10,000 per year. So put £10,000 in that box. That then opens up the whole matrix to me to show me where the other opportunities are for cross-selling and upselling in your current client base. And going back to that example I gave where a client needed to get from 5 million to 10 million, when we'd finished the matrix, I was astounded to see there were £5 million worth of business on the table in his current client base that he could have won, he could have been awarded simply by talking to the client. And when I say, does client A know that you do this product or service? Of course they do. And I have to say, well, I'm sorry, they don't. They don't know by osmosis. They don't know simply by you think that they know. You've got to go out there and talk to your existing client base.
And was it a success?
It was a success. We got through to, in the first year, we got halfway through that target, and then That client said, it struck me that I've got you working in my business to help me to drive this number forward, but if everything in our pipeline right now is closed, we won't be able to deliver it all. Would you mind just easing off and stepping back for a while, and we'll get in touch in the near future? And that's where we are right now with them. It was a great success.
You strike me as more of a concept sort of person, more than sort of numbers. I'm not getting a feeling from you, this is not a criticism, just an observation, that you're there to completely number crunch. You're not an accountant, but I imagine you're pretty proficient with numbers too. How do you use them?
Yeah, so numbers aren't everything in the business. For me, although I've said I would lead on sales and marketing, I also am aware that the biggest way to increase a profit is to get more productivity from the staff. So I'm very, very focused also on understanding the business holistically, understanding their customer base, understanding the staff, understanding what their products are and how they're delivering value to their clients. So numbers play strongly, yes, in terms of target, but there's a lot of support and mentoring needed on that path to get those numbers, because it's very frustrating and it's very lonely at the top. And I have a lot of business owners who say, it's wonderful in this 1 hour coaching session that we've just done, you just listened. That is amazing, because if you listen, and we're taught in sales that we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth and that we should use them in that ratio. But if you listen to business owners, they will tell you what the issues are. And often, this is another fantastic thing about my job, often the answer is in the client's head. But by asking questions and listening to the answers, that's where you'll find out how to help them.
Absolutely fascinating. Yeah, I've not quite thought of it like that at all. Harrogate is awash with networking groups. Networking groups is something that you've told our listeners about, which I'd never come across. Should Harrogate SMEs go to networking events, or should they spend more time trying to find new customers online, or trying to get more juice out of the customers that they already have?
Okay, networking, it's a subject in itself. If one goes to networking thinking, I want to get some new business here today, you've gone already with completely the wrong view. You're 180 degree out of phase to what you should be thinking. If you go in with the go-giver approach, that is, how many of these people in this room could I help today, you're going to have a far better experience and you're going to feel far better about yourself. So for me, it's not which networking group should I go to, it's which networking group would I be best served to help people in. That's what you should be thinking. And I don't walk around with the old, I've got 100 business cards on me, I need to get them all out. That's outrageous. What I do is I ask for the other person's business card, and then I make contact with that person, a handwritten note, and I post it to them saying, if I can help you to promote your business in any way with any referrals, then I will look out for you.
That would be most refreshing at a networking event to hear that. We've never met at a networking event.
No.
Honestly. Now, people listening to this podcast might be thinking of setting up their own business. Should all people who've got an idea and perhaps a little bit of cash or whatever from a family friend who's lent them some money, should they set up a business? Is running a business for everybody?
Short answer, no, it isn't. And I do tell people who come to me with a startup idea that they should stay with their day job. I don't think ka-ching, cash registers ringing, business advice, oh, I've got another client. I think this person is likely to fail if they set up. I might see something or their idea. I've had all sorts of wacky things come towards me. Somebody wants to start a new Facebook app online and charge people £5 for using it. And I had to say, it was one of the worst business ideas I'd ever heard, and so on. I get all of this. But what I would say is, come and talk. If you've got a business idea and you think it could fly, book a session. It's completely free. Just talk it through. I'll help you if I can, and I'll help point you in the right direction. And you don't have to be thinking about my fee, just thinking, is this right or not? And I'll give you that first, I don't know, comforting pat on the back, or showing you the door and showing you how to get back to work.
What a kind offer. I think some of these listeners should really take you up on that offer, indeed. Now, as a business owner yourself and helping business owners, do you have work-life balance, work-life harmony, or are you at it from 5 o'clock in the morning until midnight and you're burning out? You don't strike me as the burnt out type.
Okay, so there's that old saying that the worst shod children on the street are the cobbler's children. Sadly, I don't want any of my clients to be working long hours or working weekends. I want us to be generating enough profit in the business that they can delegate that work to other members of staff and have a good work-life balance. As we speak right now, I have to admit my work-life balance needs getting back in order, because it's something ingrained in me. When a business owner comes and asks for help, I invariably, if I can see that I can help them, I say yes. So at the moment, I am actually working 6 days a week, and I have things in place that I'm getting that time back by employing people to help me in my business to deliver to more clients.
Peter, with you, surely it's work, 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 work. Do you do anything other than work?
I do have interests outside of work. I have 2 children, I have grandchildren, which is fantastic. In my spare time, you already heard that I read from a personal development point of view, which is wonderful. I get a huge enjoyment from that. I go walking out in the country with friends and with Mark Reed on networking. I play guitar, listen to music, live music, and I keep bees. I have my own apiary in the garden. And one of my favourite topics when we're networking is to talk about the sex life of the honeybee.
Wow, well, tell me more. I'm sort of stumped with where you went with this conversation. But
in the 60 seconds that one has on a networking event to explain who you are, I will simply say, Harrogate Business Advisors, helping small business owners to grow. But you don't want to hear about me, you'd rather hear about the sex life of a honeybee. Because what happens is, when that virgin queen is flying out of the colony on her first maiden flight, she sets out a huge chain of pheromones that drives all the males in the neighbourhood absolutely wild. They chase her, and at about 500 feet in the air, they mate with the queen. One at a time, the male bee mates with the queen, and as he ejaculates, his genitalia are ripped from his body and spat out to the ground. And the next one mounts, and the next one mounts, and she'll take about 50 men and then go back. And that's her one and only time that she mates. For the next 5 years, she will then take an egg from an ovary and sperm from the sperm sac and just go egg, sperm, egg, sperm, egg, sperm, egg, sperm. And that's how the colony is kept going for the next 5 years. So if you wish to have a 5-year plan to grow your colony, come and see Peter Dickinson, Harrogate Business Advisors.
I never knew that about the honeybee, Peter. Thank you for that. I imagine most people listening to this podcast didn't know either. It reminds me somewhat of the Henry Ford's factory mechanism.
Yeah, well, it's in their DNA. And she needs to mate with 50 because they need that DNA mix. That's how colonies survive. And at this time of year, we're here in September, there is no use. It's a completely matriarchal society. It's run by a lady, the queen. All of the workers are female, and the males have only one function, and that is to mate with them in the spring. So there aren't any males in the colony right now. There's a complete, they just don't need them now.
Males are redundant.
Correct.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't sort of manifest itself in human life. Although with reducing sperm counts, perhaps that is going to happen. What other sort of pro bono work do you do? I know you give pro bono help to sort of new startups or potential new startups. But I think from your LinkedIn profile, I think you're involved in a charity. Would you tell us about it?
Yeah, so a number of years ago, I became involved in Rock Up and Sing, which is a social enterprise. Rock Up and Sing is exactly what it says it is. You just, if you wish to join a choir, you don't have to have any talent. Just rock up and sing. If you feel that you're not very well in the vocal department, they will find you a slot buried in the choir. If you feel you're a soloist, they'll bring you forward and let you shine. And I help them just with mentoring and guidance, and all of the money that they raise in their different concerts always goes back to good causes in Harrogate.
Sounds like a good cause indeed. Peter, should the Harrogate business community, men and women, whatever age they are, whatever stage in life they're at, should they have a morning routine, getting up early or whatever time you're going to recommend? And if so, what should they put in that morning routine?
Okay, the answer is yes. I do believe that everybody should have a morning routine. Whatever time you get up now, set aside 10 or 15 minutes to really clear your mind. Call it meditation, call it mantra, call it living in the now, whatever it is you want to call it. But you should be thinking about a number of things. You should clear your mind, go somewhere still and tranquil in your mind, and then as you start to come out of that, start to feel grateful for all the things that are going on in your life. Start to have that attitude that you're thankful for all of the wonderful things that we are blessed with. I know that sounds a little bit woo, and if you met me, you would find that very odd, but truly, if you can do that every day and really focus, it helps you then think what you need to be doing that day. It helps you focus on your bigger picture. And so I personally have my 3-year vision, and I encourage all my clients, every one of my clients has a 3-year vision. It's a tool where everything's captured on one sheet, and I advocate that it's on the wall so that the client and their staff can see the growth journey that everybody's on. I have one for my business, and I look at it every morning and think about what I need to do today that moves me from where I am now to that end journey.
Interesting start to a day, and I'm sure many people should copy what you do. A question I've asked other interviewees who sat in that very same chair is, why should businesses grow? What's wrong with as they are? What's wrong with stagnation? The same turnovers, same profit margin, same customers, easy life. Why grow?
Yeah, that's a very philosophical question. I believe it's in our DNA, it's in our human nature to wish to explore and go further. But I also appreciate that that is not for everybody. And I would never look down on anybody that felt that their business had achieved what it is that they want to achieve. In fact, I would be unbelievably happy for them. Even though they might not be a client of mine, that's fine. They've reached what they need to get to. I would just be careful that you can sustain something, because in the world that we live in, I believe that would be like trying to stand still when the escalator was going down. So I would actually advocate, just do keep in mind that you do need to be staying a little bit in growth mindset. But yeah, absolutely, I would never think negatively about anybody that wanted to just stay where they are. And that does happen in the world I'm in. We get to a position where the client is happy, they've achieved what they want to achieve, and we start working together and they're on that plateau and they've got the work-life balance right, they've got everything that they want, and I am absolutely delighted.
Good answer. Another one. How should Harrogate business owners deal with bouts of ill health? I suffered one a few months back and took me out of work for 5 weeks, and in some ways it was one of the happiest moments, because Truth Legal continued without me. I was unnecessary. How should we deal with these things which crop up? Is it a symptom of overwork? Well, it depends on the injury or illness, I suppose, but Do you have any pearls of wisdom for those who are inevitably going to be struck down with ill health at some point?
Firstly, I'm sorry to hear that you've been ill. Secondly, I'm incredibly pleased that Trust Legal ran without you, because this is nirvana. That's exactly where all business owners need to get to, where they feel comfortable that they've got the policies and procedures in place, that the staff can continue to run the business the way that they would like it run when they're not there. That's absolutely the dream state. So you've already attained nirvana. Well done. So this is what I preach, that all business owners do exactly what you have achieved. They try and delegate to the right people such that the business can continue. There's also key personnel insurance you can take out if you do think that you're exposed and you can't delegate to anybody else. And I also realize we're saying this, but some of the listeners are going to be sole traders. They're going to be one person
Indeed.
in that business. Now, that's incredibly hard when you're not very well. And when you're not very well and you're not on your game, it's really hard to do the things that you're doing. And so you need to be delivering value to your customers. You need to be promoting your business properly. And it's very hard. I don't have all the answers on what do you do if you're sick.
It was a tough question. I just came out off the top of my head.
Also, because of your own personal experience.
Indeed.
Also, look around in your network and see who you might collaborate with, because I am a great believer in embracing the competitors in what I do. I love working with other coaches and business advisors. I have nothing to fear. So look around and see who you might be able to help in any way by putting some of the work their way, and everybody wins.
Yes, pearls of wisdom that certainly was, Peter. Thank you. I hadn't thought of it like that. Now, one of the problems I have, and I imagine the problems that many business owners have, and just general employees in any job, is email overwhelm. When I first practiced as a lawyer, so 12 years ago or so, email was just coming in and you get a couple of emails and people would treat it like a letter. Fast forward to today and the customer service experience that people require is so much more than it once was, which is great. But with that, you have email almost constantly working on your phone when you're not at your desk, when you're on the way at the weekend holidays. Are there any tips that you would have for email?
You'll be pleased to hear, yes, I do have a tip on email. When a client is getting swamped with email and they're not doing their day job because they've got all of these interrupts, what I advocate is that they set aside time when it's email time. Because multitasking, I think, is a bit of a myth. I think when you're doing email, you need to focus on email. When you're doing something else, you need to be focused on that and don't try and interleave it. And we're so guilty these days. We're in a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet and a new email comes up, it pings up on the screen, we're distracted. Oh, that's Jim, I can answer that quickly. But you're moving away. In my world, it's IT. So you load up your memory with a cache of information so that you can deal with the task in hand. When another task comes in, you dump that memory and a new cache of information comes into your memory and you deal with that. That's very heavy duty. It uses a lot of energy switching all the time like that. So when I have a client that is bombarded with email, I say choose the 2 times of day when you're going to check email. Let's say it's 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Now put an out of office reply on your email that says I am answering email at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. If you want to get hold of me in between those times, please call my mobile. Other than that, I'll get back. That then, I've never met anybody that reads an out of office reply like that and takes offense. Because what they're being told is, you will be dealt with, but you will be dealt with in one of these 2 times today.
Sound advice. Sometimes it comes a little bit snotty when I have seen them, and I've seen very few. But I also think, yeah, I've been put in my place. You know, the person I'm emailing has lots of other things to do, and they are prioritising. I'm dealing with a smart person, so I have those 2 thoughts when I get them. Yes, that's a bit rude, but okay, that person is a smart person to having done it. They probably listen to some of your advice, no doubt.
Make the message not rude.
Okay, so thank you very much for your email. I am going to deal with it as soon as I can in an effort to be as efficient at dealing with your inquiry. I will respond at between 10 and 4. I suppose that could work. Thank you. Harrogate is just a great place to live and work. I feel totally blessed to live here. I've got so many friends. But we are some way from London. We are, I know, not too far from Leeds, but enough that people in Harrogate want to use Harrogate businesses and services, so on. So what are the benefits of running a business in Harrogate, in your view?
Okay, I can only talk from my point of view. When I came out of the corporate world in 2005, I looked around thinking, what I do, is there enough work for giving coaching, business advice and marketing and sales help to local businesses in my area? And my answer to myself was yes. So I thought, what would they look for when they were on a search engine? They'd probably think business advice, Harrogate. So I called my business Harrogate Business Advisors, on simply being an SEO search term, because there's enough work just within 20 miles of my house. And I think what Harrogate Business Advisors need, Harrogate business owners, need to be thinking about is, what's the catchment area of what I do? Is there enough work for me around in this area? That's one of the biggest things to focus on, because we don't need to be going down to London. Not sure, some clients that I have do need an office in London. I get that, but most of the time, I think we live in a global community. I think I have an IT background, and I think we're all well connected these days on devices. And I think once you've met somebody, you can still have screen time with them and still keep relationships alive.
Agreed. You sort of touch on social media a little bit, we're all connected. Is social media, be it Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever, are they good platforms for Harrogate business owners to sell their products or services?
I think personally, LinkedIn is a fabulous networking and social media tool. LinkedIn. It stands head and shoulders above everything else. The others, I'm afraid, you're getting onto one of my hobby horses, because people are distracted all the time. They feel like they are somehow attached to this device, and when it pings, they need to respond to it. And they're not actually aware that they're getting a small chemical rush because somebody's liked their comment on Facebook, or they liked the picture of their breakfast, and it's creating a very strange generation of people that are getting their little chemical rushes by hitting this small device in their hand, and it's a massive distraction for them.
But it takes so much of people's day that perhaps Harrogate business owners should be using Facebook, Twitter, whatever, to sell on. I'm not a big fan, I'm just prodding you for
it works in some markets. There's some that are really, really good for it. Estate agents should be embracing Facebook because it's really powerful for them, because you're selling, and this is another clue as well, when you're selling B2B, business to business, and you commercial transactions, that's where LinkedIn stands head and shoulders. When you're business to consumer, and your consumer is Mr. and Mrs. Patel, you need to be then reaching out to them through Facebook. So you pick the media depending on what your business. Very, very simply, we need to be fishing where our clients are swimming.
I think that's a great way to end this conversation. Peter, so how do people find out about Harrogate Business Advisors? And granted, you've picked a great name that people should easily be able to find on Google, but go on, give us your email, Twitter, LinkedIn, what have you.
The easiest way to get hold of me, once you've looked at the website at hbadvisors.co.uk, is my mobile number, 07917 679 050. I'm sure Andrew will include this in the notes following up with the podcast, but that's it. Please just give me a call and have a chat.
Peter, I'm sure people will. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you.
I've really appreciated
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.